pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Fleur. I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting, special call meeting tonight in regards to our year-end budget amendments. So this time I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Odom.
These are amendments that we're beginning to try to close out the 12-13 year, and we have to take it to health and ed and, of course, budget and finance. And there still may be another one or two somewhere down the line when the state completes it. The first one is for substitute teachers. This amendment has a net increase of $30,550 for substitute teacher pay and reduces regular teacher pay and benefits by the same amount. The rest of the lines in the amendment true up the substitute pay to the various budget line items where the expenditures were incurred. The sublines with increases total $125,950. The decrease lines $95,400. This is $30,550 is an increase of 1.33% to our $2,293,589 budget for substitute teachers. The recommended motion is to amend a net increase of $30,550 for substitute teacher pay and reduces regular teacher pay and benefits by the same amount as presented. And Jeff is here if we have copies if you'd like to ask additional questions.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Holliday and a second by Ms. Blankenship. Any further discussion on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
The second amendment is unemployment compensation. This amendment moves $35,000 in already budgeted unemployment compensation to the budget lines where it is needed. Recommend motion to amend $35,000 in unemployment compensation to the unemployment line items where it is needed.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Blair and a second by Mr. Nipper. Any further discussion on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Sandvik did tell me today that unemployment claims were down this year some, so that was a good thing. You never know for sure. Utilities and transportation. This amendment allocates $234,987 in budgeted utilities to cover $77,581 in additional custodial supplies, $20,000 for additional for water and sewer, $38,820 for a Genesis special ed bus, and $98,586 for the fuel price adjustment to the bus operator contracts. Recommend motion to amend $234,987 from budgeted utilities in order to cover additional expenditures, $77,581 in custodial supplies, $20,000 for water and sewer, $38,820 for a Genesis special ed bus, and $98,586 for the fuel price adjustments to the bus operator contracts. Of course, the Genesis special ed bus is one of the contractors for our special ed program.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Blair and seconded by Mr. Young. Any further discussion on
I've
this?
just
Mr. Tackett?
a question as to, are utilities just trending down from what we
Yes.
expect they might be?
Yes.
Any particular area?
Fairly mild winter. The price on natural gas has dropped, but our electric usage is,
Outstanding.
yeah, in both of those. We're up a bit in water, and we probably adjusted too much for water savings with the water refitting that we did starting in the summer through the fall.
Okay.
Because some of the savings from that obviously is what come from the gas usage.
That's good news.
Yes.
You've heard the motion, heard the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 4.
Item number 4 is other expenditures within major function. This amendment reallocates a total of $517,133 in already budgeted expenditures within major functions. This amendment primarily covers contract services, supplies, and equipment. The medical service function, 72-120, reallocates a state grant and includes some labor. The central and other functions reallocates available salary funds to cover additional technology expenditures. Recommend motion to amend a total of $517,133 in already budgeted expenditures within major functions as presented.
You've heard the motion.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Tackett, second by Mr. Nipper. Any further discussion on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 5.
Number 5 is the revenue side. This amendment is the year-end revenue adjustment for the general purpose school fund. The entire amount of the increase is $3,038,228 is going to increased fund balance. Recommend motion to increase budgeted revenues by $3,038,228 for various local, state, and federal revenues to increase fund balance as presented.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Holliday and a second by Ms. Blankenship. Any further discussion on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right.
The next item is the centralized cafeteria fund, Fund 143, 2012-13 budget amendment. This amendment is a final cleanup amendment for the centralized cafeteria fund. Initially, we thought only the first workman's comp payment would need to be made this year. We wound up needing to make a smaller second payment after that line item had been amended. The other change is the move from Seamless Summer Feeding Program to the Department of Human Services program, which uses a different revenue account. The other line items changes adjust the budget to a better match projected 2012 and 13 results. The amendment reduces revenues and expenditures by $490,633 with no change to budgeted fund balance. Recommend motion to amend the 2012-13 centralized cafeteria budget, Fund 143, by reducing budgeted revenues by a total of $490,663 and by reducing budgeted expenditures by the same amount as presented.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Young, and a second by Mr. Blair. Any further discussion on this? Mr. Holliday?
This item here makes reference to the summer feeding program. I do from time to time still get questions from the general public about the summer feeding program. It is correct and accurate still that that is not a program that is funded locally. It's funded by monies beyond our local tax dollars.
It is.
Okay, that's what I always say.
It's federal dollars, basically, that operate.
Very good. Okay.
Anybody else? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
This is the 2013-14 budget. That's our upcoming budget. General Purpose School Fund 141. The proposed 2013-14 budget for General Purpose Schools Fund 141 has $289,249,377 in projected revenues and $300,005,565 in projected expenditures. At the last Commission Budget Committee meeting, 5 cents in additional property tax was added to the GPS budget. 2 other revenue accounts have been adjusted for an additional $75,000 in revenue. The Trustees Commission was increased by $10,700 due to the additional 5 cents. With these changes, the budget is currently out of balance by $10,756,188. We used $9,252,756 from the fund balance in order to fund our 2012-13 GPS budget. The recommended motion to approve the proposed 2013-2014 General Purpose Schools Fund 141 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Blair and a second by Mr. Nipper. Any further discussion on this? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
The last one is Capital Projects, Fund 177. The attached revised project list for 2013-14 moves the funds for the Buchanan Sewer Project to the Eagleville Project, since that should be online during the next school year, and adds gymnasium seating for Oakland and Riverdale High Schools. Recommend motion to approve the revised 2013-14 project list for Fund 177, Capital Projects, as presented. I get contacted by people every once in a while, and you probably do too, because of that old seating upstairs at Oakland and Riverdale. You remember that, don't you?
Oh, well, it was all seen when I was there.
I know. So it's
moved.
time
It hasn't
for some
gotten
repairs. You know, that's what we're talking about.
What was that seating? I assume it'll still be a chair back kind of a product. Will it be a plastic seat similar to what we put in our theater? Imagine,
Until we go out
I understand.
to bid.
But you would anticipate it to be something like we currently putting in theaters we have. That'd be so much better.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Holliday and a second by Mr. Tackett. Any further discussion on this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, Mr. Owen.
I think that's it.
That was it.
That seating was vintage 1972, I think.
One is still usable, I'd say you're down to probably 85% of the seats that are probably usable.
Yeah, you can call Celeste Middleton and get her off our back.
I'd like to just make if I could, just make a general comment. I was talking to Mr. Sandvig before we got started and asking him how we're gonna make out this year, this existing year, and on all our budgets and everything, and, he tells me we're in good shape and probably under everything, so I'd just like to commend you and the staff and the board, basically keeping us within what we said we would do, and, cause when you start looking at it, it's a great big, we're doing some great big figures, so, I just want to tell you, I appreciate the job you're doing on that.
Thanks.
Anybody else, Mr. Holliday?
Mr. Sandvig, if you could tell us a little bit, the fund balance, it's good to have it there. We're anticipating using more of it than we did this past
Yes.
year.
Mhm.
In your estimation, are you at a place of comfort, as we move forward?
With the 5 cents added, I am much more comfortable, yes. And we do know that we've got 2,763,000 of the January, of the medical insurance increase that's effective January 2014 will hit our 14-15 budget.
If you remember when we discussed that, one of the things is a half year,
Yeah.
and so looking ahead to 14-15, you know, with the Affordable Care Act and the changes and the payments per person and all that.
With
That's
the
what we're
3 million plus that we added to fund balance, this evening, where do we see fund balance at?
I'm hoping, I think it will be a little over 21 million. It's hard to tell what expenditures will come in these next few days. And really even, we will have some items like utilities, that being the biggest item, coming in the first 2 weeks of July. And that's the great unknown. But I think we will be in good shape coming in 21 million.
And we still try to target a 3%.
Legally, once a year starts, we can drop below 3, but we have to start the year at 3.
For the people listening to us on
Yeah.
television, in simple terms, when you say 21 million, 12 million is going to fund next year's budget to make it balance. We're required by law to have about another 3%, which is roughly another 9 million,
Yeah.
putting those two together. Hence, that's where you're coming up with around the 21 million that we're required to
So
do.
we're basically right at the legal requirement to be there.
I'm hoping we'll come in a bit better than that. It's really, Lisa Nolan and I are more comfortable when we are over 4%. That gives us a little more latitude. Some of y'all remember a few years ago when utility prices went crazy, instead of amending 3 million into fund balance, we had to amend 2.5 to 3.5 out to cover utility bills that year. So it's good to be something over 3. And some of the public comments that get made at the commission meetings, the fund balance numbers being cited in some of those public comments are just wrong. If we had 42 million in fund balance, we wouldn't be asking for a 5-cent property tax increase. We would be using fund balance. And just some of the numbers get cited in the public comment area can be rather misleading. And one of the other things I want to say, these reserves and the policies that the county have established help keep our interest rate low. I get questions from superintendents as they get mailings, some of the subsidized interest plans that are out there for schools. We typically borrow for less. One of my friends in a neighboring county was delighted. He got something at well over 3%. We were borrowing at just over 2% at that time. These things over the 20-year period of our debt, it makes a difference, and it helps the commission stabilize our property tax. If we ran the debt service down as low as we could, as our payments shift, we add and pay off, we would see massive swings in the rate from year to year, and I don't think anyone wants to see that.
For board members that saw or heard that 41 million or so was quoted,
Yeah.
they actually went back to a cash balance
Yes.
situation of what was available. Jeff said we have 2 more teacher paychecks before, since that's taken and all, and it's just
Yeah.
kind of like pending bills are coming,
Yeah.
and it's a matter of setting aside that funds to meet those pending bills. So what you're seeing with our amendments tonight is much closer to what your actual expenditures, not some figure taken a couple of months ago or so before you
Yeah.
actually had payments.
Yeah.
Mr. Tackett?
You addressed kind of what I was wanted to ask, and I'd say, I did watch the public hearing last night on television and appreciated the comments that were made by lots of folks and so forth, but I would caution a lot of people to pay attention to the facts that are mentioned, because, there were a couple situations where I just bristled in my chair at the facts or so-called facts that were being presented. So I don't want to belittle anyone, but I think we just need to all be careful when we listen to some that may not be as well versed as they need to be, throwing out information
Yeah.
as fact, and it just clearly is not.
Yeah.
There were some very false statements made last night as fact, and so I appreciate you bringing that to light. I guess the point I was going to ask you, it would be difficult, I think, what you said, for anyone to make a point that we are grossly overfunding our
No.
fund balance.
We are not. And even before the commission was letting us use it to fund operations, as our fund balance built up, we were transferring monies to the building program for design and we weren't covering, and buying land. So we were running our fund balance back down to that 3.5% to 5% range. But we were transferring monies to the building program. Now we're having to use them for operations, and hopefully we can move away from that. But we have not built up huge fund balances.
Well, we look at the test data to tell us whether or not our students are doing well in the classroom, and likewise, we have this data, and the comment that is made by our partners and our funding body and the county commission that they appreciate the fact that we bring accurate, realistic budget numbers. And here at the end of a budget year, we're adjusting 1% back into fund balance. So we were 99% on target. That's truth in advertising, doing what we say we're going to do, just like Chairman said. So again, credit to our staff.
Anybody else? I'd like to remind everybody, Thursday night's meetings on exemptions. Mr. Evans, he's gone, I guess. I heard him comment, how many zone exemptions did he have this year?
1,200 and,
Oh,
but we're down to 3 appeal.
Coming for,
Final
coming
appeal.
for us.
It's not over 1,200.
Yeah, I just thought, I think he told you, somebody over here that had over 1,200 requests.
oh, wow.
And we're gonna hear 3 of them, so, I think he did a good job.
Do we know how many he approved or he turned down?
A significant number, as long as it was in the guidelines. You know, we did ask people to fill in zoning exemptions if they were grandfathered or something like that, so we could kind of track and siblings. And they were approved based on your thing. I can get him to do a breakdown for
Okay.
us. We can do that. Joseph, if you remember, we'll get him to do that before he starts. And Jeff may want to say something about the budget after the commission kind of goes.
Tomorrow night, the commission's budget committee will meet again to finalize the recommendation, budget recommendation they will send to the full commission Friday week, the 28th. So if they request any changes to our budget, we have held space on the agenda Thursday night to address those Thursday night if that should happen. And other than that, we should be in good shape moving forward to a week from Friday, the July commission meeting.
That'd be good. Anybody else? Mr. Tackett?
Worst case scenario, the full commission on June 28th slashes budget approves something less than what we have. What's our move at that point in time? I mean, at that point in time, we will have an approved budget, I assume.
Well,
We've got to do something with it, or how's it work?
we would have an approved amount
Okay, right.
that we would have to then amend as long as it meets our basic needs. I think we would really not have, we'd need to follow that number.
Or we could have a stand-on.
But under a continuing resolution, when we're opening a new school, we don't have the legal authorization to hire new staff.
That would not be a good
That
stand-on.
would, the year you open a school is not a good year for us to have a standoff. I mean, I think they would work with us on that, but ultimately the continuing resolution is for the prior year's staff only.
I get lots of feedback from county commissioners that we're on a good path, and I am hopeful and optimistic that the education of Rutherford County students is still going to remain a priority. So, looking forward to it.
Well, and the commission has a good record.
Yes.
I commend them for looking beyond rhetoric and actual issues and needs, and it's a tough job they do.
One more comment if I may, just, I think it's worth saying that to stand still with the budget, as some would suggest, to stand completely stagnant, means we are regressing. I mean, there are expenses that we will incur. And some of them,
There are penalties we would incur because if we don't meet BEP class sizes.
but would I not be correct that some of the increase that we have in our budget are flow-through kinds of things that are literally funded by the state or something like that?
Yeah.
That, so,
Yes.
in theory, there could be a $2 million increase in our budget with no increase to the local taxpayer.
Right. Yeah, our state revenues, because of our growth, have been going up. As the graph Mr. Odom put together showed that slowly declining local percentage of our funding. Some years up, some down, but overall the curve, it's been a downward curve. So,
Anybody else?
The biggest increase was in insurance. I mean, that's our.
right. Oh, yeah.
That's something totally out of our control.
Yeah. I had no idea. When I presented my first number, I was hoping 12% was our worst case scenario after a 20% increase in January. I was not prepared for 24.
Well, I told you it was coming.
But only 3% of it is because of the Affordable Care Act, is what our consultant said.
Yes, sir.
All right, one last time. Anything else? We're adjourned.